TV party tonight!
What?
TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else!
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes.
To our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Pearson at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting Premier Podcast TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Aggretsuko, Season 4. Brought to you by the good people at Fanworks and Netflix. Aggretsuko is a Japanese animated comedy streaming television series. I'm just going to call it an anime. It's an anime based on the eponymous character created by Yeti for the mascot Sanrio, known for Hello Kitty. The character first appeared in a series of animated shorts by Fanworks, which aired on TBS Television between April 2016 and March 2018. This current season we're talking about tonight debuted on Netflix December 16th, 2021, and we are getting to it tonight. And I am joined, as I have for the previous 3 seasons, by David Wright. How do you do, David?
I'm good, thanks. Hello, everyone.
So here we are back again talking about our favorite little red panda. Is that what she is?
Yes, she's a red panda.
Right. When we last left off with season 3, so season 1 sort of established what the whole series was about. I bring it up now because it's relevant to this season. This is where the boss started naming Aggretsuko Calendar because she was not solely devoted to the religion of work as she should be as a good little Japanese red panda.
Well, she was planning on jumping ship. She was using work computers to job hunt.
Right. The second season dealt with, as many workplace comedies do, our female lead finds a rich man to run around the world with and then decides this is not love, this is not true love, this is not what I want. Season 3, she joins Baby Metal. And then here in season 4, this is the takeover season. I think what I'm trying to say, David, is that while I enjoy this show, boy, does it fall into a lot of workplace drama tropes. What do you think?
The season I enjoyed the most up to now was still the first season because again it was mostly adulting the anime, how to navigate being a new employee, having to get used to the work culture across generations. Because it starts off, Retsuko has graduated not high school, it would be college in this case. She's got a job at a company and she's learning the ropes, being in a position of having production expected of her, dealing with her older, more traditional boss from an era where, workers' rights was not really the same culture as before. You were expected to just, take crap from your superiors, get your head down and work hard and rise up the ranks. That's very traditional Japanese company way of doing things. And yeah, it was just sort of her struggling with, do I like my job? Should I be at my job? Should I find something else to do? And her co-worker.
It's very much like that Madness song. Is this my beautiful wife? Is this my beautiful house? Is this all there is?
Yeah, and sort of her getting to the end of it and deciding, I'm gonna kind of do my best here and win at being accepted by my workplace.
Right.
I think it's interesting because you say he calls her calendar. In the Japanese version, he calls her like short timer, like a temporary contract employee because she's looking around for other things. And then, you get into, and I really enjoyed that sort of aspect of the show and the whole, like her venting her rage through death metal karaoke, which is kind of her deep secret, though, as the show goes on, more and more people become aware of it. And then, you get into season 2, which is more her taking the sort of traditional out for women in the workplace in Japan, which is get married, start a family, have kids, become a full-time housewife. And, that becomes your life from there, which, hey, nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But
that's not what she wants to do.
Well,
and I think that's the yoke that she's struggling against is, and I think that's a big theme of this show is I don't know if Retsuko really knows what she wants to do. I don't think the writers know what this character wants to do.
But I mean,
because every season is a new hat.
Yeah, and in the end, she meets up with Tadano, who's just a super genius tech billionaire. And, I think they very much are in love with each other. It's just he's so, so much of an eccentric genius that he's like, I don't believe in the institution of marriage. I don't need to get married. And Retsuko wants the marriage. She wants the wedding. She wants the home life. And understanding she can't have that with Tadano, despite him being a nice guy and is, very smart and, insanely rich. She's like, despite all those positive things in you, I can't follow you in that path. And then, third is she becomes, an idol singer and becomes popular through that. But again, it's sort of, is this really the life for me? She gets a stalker and doesn't like that. And then we come to season 4 now, where it's mostly back in the office dealing with office drama. And that was, I think, the strongest part of the show. And I was really happy to see it back at that point.
Right. I think the point that I was getting to, and it's fine to have gone through all of that, but it's like, I feel like every workplace show, there's always a season where there's like a new boss, or there's some sort of drama in the workplace where a pillar of what was keeping it up has now changed, and the whole dynamic has changed, and everyone's reacting to that change. To your point about I think it's the second season where the new guy comes on. He continues to be one of my favorite characters.
Oh yeah, that's another thing in season 2 is she actually has a bit of seniority now, and she has to work through training the new guy, who's like a very, I guess we would say now, millennial or Gen Z. Very nervous, very quick to post on social media any issues that he has, and in his own mind, it's he's just looking out for himself in his own defense, right. But it kind of becomes to the point where like no work gets done because he's so triggered about having work to do. It's like, no, your boss isn't abusing you. They're just telling you have a job to do and it needs to be done by Friday. Right. This is called work.
He's very much emblematic of something very current going on now in the workplace and I see this on TikTok where it's always, the thing on TikTok is you are playing yourself in different characters. It's you talking to yourself like a pitch meeting. And it's always like boomers talking to Gen Zs and the boomer character is always, and we were abused and we liked it, and the Gen Z's like, but you don't have to be. There's no reason to abuse people. It's that conflict. It's like, it's not abuse, it's work. That's how this goes. But yeah, so this season, there's a new boss comes along, and the first thing that happens is, hey, there's a tacit realization that the accounting department does not produce revenue. This resonated a lot with me. This is something I read about all the time when I read entertainment trades and and what business books I have read or articles in like Fortune or The Economist or something, because I'm a smart. Is I'll see, departments that were sort of a functional department that lended itself to the overall productivity and success of a company are now looked upon as, since they do not contribute directly to the economic success of the company, they are deemed either redundant or they are forced to be trimmed down, things of that. They're looked at as cost ineffective. And I was like, wow, it's such a smartly written cartoon for what's kind of a silly premise is, what if we have these Hello Kitty Sanrio characters, but it's The Office? And that's a lot of what we're doing here in this is you have this boss going, hey, the accounting department is not cost effective at all. And so we're going to start firing people, but we don't really want to fire them because that in and of itself causes its own problems. Well, so what if we just make this miserable and people quit? Yeah.
Well, you're missing a bit of an aspect there because this is a Japanese production. Yeah. Yes. So what happens is like the current CEO has like a brain aneurysm, heart attack. I forget exactly what it was while out jogging. And he's basically announcing his retirement. And instead of just letting the next guy in seniority, which is sort of the traditional way of doing it, like the next yes man at the board meeting become the CEO, he picks a sort of young, like progressive, not like progressive in the social sense, but like, workplace progressive, new ideas into the driver's seat, which, the current board of directors resents. And he's trying to go like, I need to streamline the company. I need to get rid of all this old junk from the old ways of doing things, and
things that function just fine don't function in the world as I see it, and therefore they must change.
Kind of. I mean, he's not wrong with his perspective. Like, it's a new world. There are new technologies. You need to go and change with the times.
Right.
But at the same time, he's a bit doesn't quite appreciate some of the why these things are here. And like there's this great moment where Boss Ton talks to him and he sort of says, like, the accounting department doesn't generate any revenue for the company. And Ton says, yes, that's true, but I'd like to see an F1 team win without a pit crew.
And it's interesting because we're going to bounce.
I actually didn't address the original question there, but what happens is, like in Japan, they have this thing called the lifetime employment system. The idea is, if you get employed by a company, you are with that company until you die, basically. Like they will not fire you because it's sort of just a sort of honorary agreement that
that's what you mean by I missed an aspect of it. It is not so much.
Yeah, it's like, you will work your ass off till you die, possibly at your desk, which there's actually a word for that, which is scary. But in exchange, the company will always have your back. They will look out for you. They will clothe you, feed you, get you a place to live. You will always be there. And it's very difficult for a company to just fire someone. But what they can do is they can make your life so miserable that you quit. And this actually does happen in actual companies.
I think I was going to say, I think the American equivalent is when you have a company that has been historically union and that union is embedded. It's not a whole lot. Like the teachers union, for example, or being tenured. Not a whole lot. You'd have to literally bang a kid to get fired, which I do not suggest people do, just in case anyone misunderstood me. But short of banging a kid or hurting a kid, you keep those jobs forever. But boy, can they make teaching such a miserable experience that teachers just say, "I hate this," and I quit anyway. In lieu of actually directly fire them. But I do want to ask you, since you brought that up. Art is a way to speak about an issue, social or otherwise. Do you think that the writers were sort of looking at the word you use there, the work, lifetime employment? You think they're looking at that and going, "This is outdated. This is a generational thing, and we want to kind of attack it with this. We use the show as a vehicle to editorialize our thoughts on this system."
Yeah, well, I don't think that they were so much taking shots at the lifetime employment system. And that is, I never worked as an actual salaried office worker in Japan. I was an English teacher, which is, you're sort of outside of that system. You kind of get peaks a bit, but it's so I would stress that, I'm not an expert. I don't have insider knowledge on this. This is kind of just,
you've talked to people though, I'm sure.
Yeah,
your wife has talked to people.
Yeah, but so yeah, I don't think that's so much the issue. And then and there are companies that are very good about this, and but also just with the way that economics are going, it's a lot more difficult now to maintain that system. Back in like the 80s and 90s, when it was the bubble economy, and Japan was making money hand over fist, and America was making gung ho. Like this, yes, of course, we'll keep it going. But now the bubble has burst.
Right. And I don't necessarily think the writers. I don't think the writers of this show were necessarily having negative feelings for it and felt the need that was the message here. But I do think they were talking about it.
They're talking about it. I think a lot of it is more just the generational divide. Like you even see it in the first season, where Boss Ton is he's very hard on Retsuko and most of the of the department, and he's portrayed as this ogre, this sort of very mean, nasty, terrible boss.
Yeah.
But there's also this moment where, like, when Retsuko goes to the drinking party and she pours him a drink, and she remembers the last time she poured him a drink, he cussed her out for not having the label up, which is the way that you do it. There's decorum for everything in Japan.
Yeah.
And then when she pours, he's like, "Oh, I noticed that you had the drink label up." He's like, "Yes, I remember from the time when you yelled at me." He's like, "Yeah, I guess I was a little hard on you, but when I was a new company employee, that was the way it was. Like, the older employees yelled at the newer employees, and we were expected to learn fast and think on our feet. And, that was just the way of it. It was, we were here to work. It was tough. And maybe I did come a little hard." And there's this kind of moment of them reconciling. Then Retsuko let slip that she, called him out to the bosses, and he goes back to eating crap. But there's even I'll probably talk about this a little bit more later. Like there are bits where, as horrible as Ton is to some of the department, he also does look out for his people. Like even in this show, like you see him.
Well, yeah, let's just get into that, because
you see him where the new CEO, he says, "I want you to give me a list of 10 people you think we could trim from the department." And Boss Tom gives him a list saying, no one. I'm not going to let.
But it's important to note that that's after a scene where they actually do look at the pros and cons of everybody, and there are legitimate reasons to want to let go of some people to try to reduce redundancies. And then he was like, "Doesn't matter. I'm keeping everybody. They're all important."
Yeah,
but I did like the fact that there was that he acknowledged that the reality is these are imperfect people, and you probably could cut some of them, but it was a moral, sort of ethical implication for him that he keep everybody.
Yeah, and it's again part of the culture. When you get into a group like that, it could be a work group, it could be like a club you join, it could be like a sports team or anything. You're kind of part of that group for life. Love you or hate you, or love them or hate them, whichever way it comes from. You will always be part of that family in a way, and they will stand up for you.
Another funny thing I wanted to point out is, so one of the characters that gets cited for termination, I can't remember the character's name, but I think it's the hippo or pig character.
Yeah, Kabai.
Yeah. And there's a really funny thing, and again, it reminded me of a lot of TikToks I've seen lately, where at the beginning of COVID, it was hey, if you've got the sniffle, stay home for 2 weeks. We'll pay you. We'll take care of you. For the love of God, stay in your house. And now and 2 years later, it's, listen, I've got actual COVID. They're like, I understand that, but we're still going to need you to come into work. Just wear a mask. Wear two. And it was very similar with Kabai. It was like, when you, and I say this with my job all the time, I was like, when they don't want you anymore, everything that you used to be able to get away with and nobody said anything about or had a problem with, suddenly you get written up for it until they have legitimate reason to fire you or you just quit. But nothing is bad until they decide they don't love you anymore, and that's what happens to Kabai, where it's like there's this whole thing about
they're pressuring her to quit.
It's like, don't you want to stay? But it's always like passive aggressive manipulations. Like, don't you want to stay home with your family? Your family seems like they need you, or the opposite. It's like, well, don't you have a husband that can take care of your child? You need to be at work right now.
We're prepared to offer you a very generous compensation package if you that kind of. It sounds like we're doing you a favor. It's like, but I like working here.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what I love most about when they tried to get rid of Kabai is like when the new boss is on the phone, because they've transferred Ton to like a trailer out in the middle of a shipping.
Yeah, it was very office space. They put him in the basement, and he was like, I don't have my stapler.
Yeah, very much that sort of thing where he's just has nothing to do, and they're just waiting for him to just sort of resign out of boredom. But and when Kabai's saying, like, my son's sick, I need to get him to the doctor. Like, this is something, this is my family. It's kind of important. And you have the boss trying to, cut her loose, but then like Retsuko's grabbing the phone from him. It's like, don't worry about it. We got your back. We'll grab all your work. It was very much Retsuko. She's no longer the new employee. She's part of the team. She knows what she's doing. And this is like her adulting very well. She's taking responsibility for the department as well as for her coworkers. And like, that was just a great little moment of showing her growth as a character through all this.
Yeah. I've been putting it off. I wanted to wait until we got all of that part, because the show is sort of 2 or 3 different things they focused on. One of which was this change in leadership and how it affected the workplace culture and all of that. But a lot of this has to do with, see if I can get the character's name right. Haida.
Haida, yeah.
And Haida, who I've complained about in seasons past.
Well, Haida does not have a good season this season, does he?
I've complained about him because he was kind of a milksop, and this was very much. This was not so much focused on Aggretsuko for the first time in 4 seasons. This was more focused on Haida, and he definitely has an interesting arc here. So I want to focus specifically on this, but there's a conversation that he has with the other female workplace friend, and to the point where I thought they were going to get together. Like I was when they were having drinks.
Yeah, Feneko,
yeah. When they were
my wife keeps on thinking that, I wonder if Feneko and Haida are going to end up together in the end. She's not like full on shipping, but she's thinking.
I was going to say for freaking, a Hello Kitty character cartoon show, man, they had a lot of sexual tension in that scene especially, but just in general.
Oh, I love Feneko. She's a great character.
The conversation they have over drinks where Feneko finally beats it out of Haida, because Haida tries to make a go of it with Aggretsuko. But as Haida does, he tends to chicken out. And you get the sense that he doesn't feel like he's good enough, but he's never like just outright said it. And there's this long monologue that he gives, which I thought was pretty interesting. And it made me look at the Aggretsuko character differently. He was like, I don't feel like I'm good enough for Aggretsuko. And Fenico's like, but for why? What's wrong with you? What's so great about her? And he was like, she's been an idol. She's been this. She's been, it goes to this laundry list of things.
Yeah, she dated a tech billionaire.
Yeah. Like Aggretsuko is not your average everyday Japanese workforce gal. She's an eccentric in a lot of ways. That's his perception of her. And that he's just a regular dude and isn't worthy of her. And it's breaking his heart because he loves her so much. He's so infatuated with her. And Fenico, to her credit, like, no, she's not. Not only is she not all of those things, but all of those things that you say that she has succeeded in, she's either walked away from, abandoned, it didn't work out. She's she's like the rest of us, just tripping through life. And it's one of those things where, and I say this all the time about drama, it's a greatly acted scene. It's a greatly constructed scene. The dialogue is really pitch perfect. It just makes me hate the character. I have real issues with Haida, and that takes us into the next thing that happens with him. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's at the beginning of the season. The end of last season, he confesses to Retsuko, and she sort of is like, okay, we'll give it a go.
Yeah,
sort of thing, in the sort of downplayed Japanese way of doing it. Like, it's not like the American way where, it's like all kisses and hugs and high drama. Like, I remember there was one J-drama series I watched called Miss Pilot, about a girl that becomes a pilot at an airline. And there's these two characters that sort of have a bit of tension going on with them. And I remember just reading one of the comments on the episode, like, oh, it's too bad they didn't end up together. But in like the last episode, after the big drama thing happens, like, and everyone's going home, the one character goes to the other, like, you want to go for a coffee? And that was it. And like, that was them asking each other out. Like, it's not by the American standards. So
it reminded me kind of Penny and Leonard in The Big Bang Theory, where they had their moments of passion, but there was a lot more joking around of the reason they got together was Leonard's unrelenting pursuit of Penny, and Penny just being worn down by him. Yeah, like, fine, let's give it a try.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd say it with Aggretsuko, because Haida didn't really make it clear what was going on until. Well, no,
just more of the Aggretsuko was not passionately in love with Haida and was just waiting for the opportunity. She was like, "Oh, you like me? Okay, well, let's see where this goes then."
And that's kind of very real.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah, but of course we know that Haida's been obsessing over this for basically 3 seasons, and he even kicked Inoue to the curb, and we'll get to her later, I'm sure. Yeah, but it's but yeah, and then like every time he walks her home, and they get to the door, it's like, "Would you like to come in?" Like, it doesn't get better than that, dude. Like that is like an open invitation to take things to the next level.
Right.
You're in, man. Like, go for it. And he just never does it. And well, he does
remind me of a lot of guys I know that they're so caught up in their own mental stuff, and they don't seem to recognize a woman's need for a man to take the lead, especially now.
We've been trained to not to do that, because now that's toxic masculinity or whatever you want to call that.
Hang on,
we're supposed to listen to women and respect them.
That is what's projected from the popular culture. If you actually talk to a woman, like an actual woman, they're like, "Yeah, I don't know where Hollywood's getting this from." Most of them throw them over your shoulder and catch them into the bedroom.
I've certainly been there where you look at what the pop culture is saying, like, this is what a man needs to do to be good to a woman, and it's like, okay, I'm trying that, and then like, why are the women not responding to this?
Why does this not work?
And then eventually you find out, it's because the pop culture is not right about that. And
I was gonna say it's projecting its own insecurities about things and not actually tapping into what women actually want. But anyway,
this season, like the Tsunoda sensei scenes are just fantastic. Like when Tsunoda, like the deer, is giving Haida special lessons in how to date, and she's just getting more and more frustrated at just how terrible he is. And I mean, like I've been there where like I'm so stuck in my own mind I can't really understand what the heck is going on and pay attention to what's going on in the relationship, which tends to not work out very well. But even I know if you walk a girl home and if she says, "Hey, would you like to come in?"
Right.
You should probably go in. This is like a sign that things are going to go very well this evening.
That's the Eddie Izzard bit about would you like some coffee? Would you like some coffee is code for sex now? Yeah. Unless it's being offered by the king of Burundi is the joke.
Yeah. So yeah, it's at the very least a sign that let's take this thing further. In this case, but yeah, like the scene where like Sonoda shows like I've got the file for men to keep and men to not keep, and when she finds out that when Haida had his like last chance to confess, he chickened out. She just sticks him in the file for not keep, and then she puts that into the recycle bin, and then she tries to delete the recycle bin. It's just you have just failed so hard. I cannot express my disgust at how hard you have failed at this.
But then, so here you have this milksop Haida whose spine is made of tiny pieces of chalk. Yeah. Just drives me absolutely crazy. But then, you have the new boss who takes an interest in him, and this whole new other side of Haida comes out, and it starts very slowly. It's actually very well written because it starts with things like, and I don't know if you've ever been this guy. I have, where I've had to work with elder in the field of social work. I've worked with elder women who didn't understand how computers worked. And so you fix a computer issue that they're having, which is very benign because I'm not by any actual standards with computer people. I'm not one of them. But I can fix a simple thing well enough, especially when someone has no experience. And it's like, you're a wizard, Harry.
Yes, you are a computer person now.
Right. Yeah. I'm the IT guy. And so it starts with things like that, where he's getting a degree of confidence about himself because he's able to do these little things around the office, and then it's a little bit more, and then he's figuring out some accounting things that are better.
He's
and more
basically able to use a spreadsheet to automate a lot of the workflow for the accounting department. And the new boss is so old fashioned that it's like you have to check everything one by one, manually, because that's the way it's always been done. I don't trust these new computers. And I was like, no, like I can just plug it into a spreadsheet and 2 minutes, it's done.
Right. But that leads more and more to him. And then the show goes on this weird direction. And I was trying to get there. So he's doing more and more stuff for the big boss, and he's getting more and more power within the company, and he's starting to lose his sense of self. These are all good, dramatic, arcing things for a character to have happen. I'm with him so far. What I thought was interesting, and I don't quite understand, and it might have been because I was watching this, but I was also doing stuff on the computer at the time. So it was like one eye here, one eye there. But there's this whole subplot of him cooking the books.
Yes.
And I'm like, why was this necessary?
Okay. Yeah. So what happens is, so Haida is put in charge of modernizing the workflow for the accounting department to make everything more efficient. And from that, he gets a bit more position within the company. Like he becomes the new director of accounting. The problem that's happening is, because the new CEO is instituting all these reforms to sort of modernize and streamline the company, all the older employees, especially the older people on the board, are very much against this. You're changing the system. We don't like change. Like even teaching English in Japan, like I don't know how many times I've seen we have this new exciting initiative to change how English is taught in schools, and there's like a lot of great reforms and stuff. Like this will really help the students, and then like someone higher up in the chain's like, ooh, this seems a bit different. Like I don't know, it's a bit risky. Why don't we just go back to the way it was and see how it goes? And then of course it all falls apart. And so on one hand you have a lot of sort of reluctance to the change because they like the status quo, but also you have this young guy has jumped the queue to become the CEO, and all the people on the board of directors who are expecting to get slotted in because of seniority, that like all their knives are out. They want to turn on this guy and go back to the way that the old system of I've been saying yes to all of the CEOs, everything he says, so that when the time comes I get to be appointed his successor, and no, instead he's got this new kid. What does he know? He hasn't. He doesn't have 40 years of experience. It's sort of this, again, generational thing. But because he's been making all these changes, it's a turbulent time, and you're not always going to see immediate profits from making these changes. So the idea is when they have their next earnings meeting, the earnings are going to be down. So then the board of directors is going to say, aha, see, you've made all these changes and we've lost money. You don't know what you're doing. So we're all voting you out, and then putting back the old system. Well, if that happens, the company's just going to stagnate and die. So he says, we have to cook the books to make it look like what we've been doing is profitable now instead of like a year down the line. So then they don't have anything that they can use against me, and I can keep control until the profits do get up.
That makes
everybody got that?
Yep, no, I'm with you so far.
Yeah, so he's doing the wrong thing, but I understand why he's doing it. He's doing it to help the company progress into the future, and Haida gets suckered into that as well. Like the intentions are good, but the actions are immoral.
And so eventually, because Aggretsuko is in direct conflict with the new boss and doesn't like the way things are going, and that is one of the big drivers of the season, she finds all of this out, she undoes it, and then she gets Haida to confess, and then I think Haida eventually gives everything up, and the new director is ousted, and he's fired.
And then the old one comes back. The fun little Easter egg in that, when the scene where Kabai and Retsuko are breaking into the office to steal the original books so Ton can look at them. The costumes they are wearing, like the sort of onesies with the sashes on them, are actually the same costumes used in other anime manga series called Cat's Eye, which is about like a group of women thieves that sneak into places. So it's kind of a cute little wink there.
I actually think I've heard of that now that you mention it. Hey, before we continue, it's a really great, well-written show, but you can always tighten up the language being used, maybe work on some of your characterizations a little bit better. And you know what might help you do that, David?
What, Mark? Tell me.
Grammarly. For you listeners of TV Party Tonight, Grammarly is offering a free download of the Grammarly software. Grammarly's AI-powered products help you communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M network. And again, that's great. Getgrammarly.com/W2M network to download Grammarly for free. Before we continue, other housekeeping issue. We're about midway through our discussion here. We're going to be wrapping up in about another 25 to 30 minutes or so. I want to remind people that if you're enjoying this podcast, if you found it somewhere, whether it was Spotify or Apple Music, and I'm talking specifically to you audio people. For those of you who found it on YouTube, you already know how to find it. But for those of you listening on audio, and you want to continue to hear more of these TV parties, more of our discussions of anime, more of our movie reviews, etc., please like and subscribe, or at the very least subscribe on your podcatcher of choice, so that you'll get the new shows. We drop at least one, sometimes two daily. And that's just the stuff I'm producing. There's Sean Garmer's productions, which is soccer and video games. There's Eric Watkins, who does game shows, and he's doing a new political editorial show called Point of Viewer. At one point in his life, he did football. Like I said, there's new stuff dropping daily, and if you want it when it first comes out, and subscribe to the feed, and you'll get it right there on your phone or your tablet or your computer, wherever you're listening to it. So go ahead and please do that if you haven't done so already. Please subscribe to the W2M network. I was told if I do that in the middle of the show, people might actually hear it and do so.
Okay, we'll see how it works. Yeah.
I'm going to turn it over to you. I covered the main threads of the show, which were basically the office stuff, the Haida stuff, Haida and Aggretsuko. What else about this season did you want to touch on?
Okay, well, I think one thing we haven't mentioned is Boss Ton getting employed by Retsuko to run her YouTube channel.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere also. I thought she was done with the idol stuff.
Yeah, well, I think she's not doing idol stuff. She's more doing like a her own thing where she just records some of her karaoke sessions or gives advice on how to sing death metal, and that's actually it's turning to a very popular channel for her. And so she ends up hiring Boss Ton to help out with that because he's now been released from the company and is working in a convenience store, probably a Family Mart, in all honesty.
Okay,
Family Mart's good. Japanese convenience stores are magical places.
I believe you.
Yeah.
You know what I want to try in Japan? So my daughter has been hounding us to go to Japan because she thinks we have money, and I guess maybe someday we'll eventually get there. I know a big cultural thing in Japan are the vending machines.
Yes.
They're not like they are in America. They have like whole meals in there, underwear, all you name it. I don't want to do I don't need to do the underwear vending machines, but I do.
You don't want to do that with your daughter? Why, Mark? No, don't answer that.
I don't want to do it with anybody. That's not my kink.
Yeah.
But I'm sure whatever my kink is, I can find it in a vending machine in Japan. That's what I've been told.
I hate to burst your bubble, but yes, there is a variety of vending machines in Japan. It's just the vast majority of them are drinks machines.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Like 90% is drinks machines. I mean, they're different than the American style machines. One nice thing is they do serve drinks hot or cold. You can get a hot can of coffee from a machine if you push the right button.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go to a bit more specialized places for if you want to get like the food vending machines. Like are some.
I want a cold can of coffee and a turkey dinner. Can I get that in a vending machine?
Depending on where you go, but yeah, it's a lot harder to find the food vending machines in my experience. You'll kind of get vending machines outside of restaurants where you can print tickets for what you want to eat inside. So you push the button, order the meal, you go in, hand it in, and they'll cook your food for you. Ice cream vending machines are quite popular. They're probably the second most popular.
Japan has this rich tapestry of history, so many cultural touchstones and icons. I'm there for the vending machines.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, and I do miss them. Like, it's great if, especially you're out in the summer. It's like 40 degrees Celsius outside, 90% humidity. You're sweating. You're feeling miserable. It's like there's a vending machine. I can get a drink. This is fantastic.
When we were at Epcot a couple of weeks ago, when we went into the Japan section of the World Showcase, I always make sure to get one of those cold cans of Japanese coffees. They're delicious.
Oh yeah, like the Boss coffees. You should look up everyone. You should look up the Boss coffee ads with Tommy Lee Jones playing an alien, learning about life in Japan and drinking Boss coffee. I'm not even joking. These are real.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So yes, back to Aggretsuko and her YouTube channel.
Point, there's been a bit of a crackdown on the panty machines. Like you're not going to find. Apparently, you're not going to find one of those outside of a sex shop, basically. So
I have
sorry to burst your bubble, everyone.
So I have to put tags in this on Spreaker and YouTube. I'm totally putting crackdown on panty machine.
Yeah, that'll probably get us more views. Go for it. Those of you that in the future that have clicked on this because of the panty machine tag, I'm sorry that you're probably quite disappointed by the discussion. And the
I came here to see panty machines. I didn't want to hear these two nerds talk about a cartoon. Well,
yeah, or the distinct lack of panty machines.
Yes.
In reality. Anyway, yes. Back to Retsuko, Yeah, so Ton ends up working at a convenience store, and then Retsuko comes at the behest of Ton's daughters to sort of give him a job to kind of help him out.
The voices on his daughters threw me off because I swore those were boys, but they're like wearing dresses, and I'm like, it's not that kind of situation, so they have to be girls. But boy, do they not sound like girls.
Yeah, well, this might come as a surprise to you, Mark, but the voice actor that does the voice for Ton also does the voice for Ton's daughters.
Perfect.
I know it's hard to notice the similarities, but I think that's a bit of a joke in there.
Yeah,
but, and just Ton working in a cafe doing the books for Retsuko, and then when she then uses to sort of get him to analyze what's going on at the store. But there's this one bit where she's like, "Could you go a little faster?" He's like, "Is this workplace harassment?" And you're kind of a crappy boss. And he's like. It kind of reminded me of that scene in Big Bang Theory where like they're off to do something and Leonard's, like listing off everything that they have to prepare to Sheldon, and Sheldon, have you prepared this? Yes. Have you prepared this? Yes. Have you prepared this? Have you considered this? Yes. Do you understand why I'm doing this? Yes. Because Sheldon's always super picky when they're about to go and do something. So it's kind of like Ton's like, you understand why I'm doing this? See how you like being the crappy boss because you're actually trying to get work done.
There was a couple of moments like that throughout this season where it was very, very pointed humor that kind of cracked me up. I wanted to, with reference to Ton and Aggretsuko, I wanted to talk about, and they did this in the first season, where it's established that Aggretsuko's sort of vice for handling things is doing the death metal karaoke, and then she ends up like in a rap battle with Ton at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's funny. Ton can rap.
Yeah, and they brought that back this season. And he has a couple of like opportunities where he can rap, and he really and he gets into it. Like his raps are actually like legitimately good. Like he's really entertaining, and what he says in those raps, like the first season, it was a lot of "you're a dumb girl," and "why aren't you more committed to your job like an adult?" Yeah.
And to Ton's credit, he is right. She is not exactly the most devoted employee.
Right. I can't remember what all the content was, but I remember listening to it this time. It's like he makes legitimately strong points here in a lot of what he's saying through these rap songs. Like it's because I felt like in the first season they did it. I don't know, like he's more of the villain in the first season, so the raps themselves are more attacking in nature. Whereas here, he's allied with Aggretsuko, and the raps are more positive in nature while still making like valid points. I just thought was interesting.
Yeah. You start to understand his point of view, and he starts to understand a bit more of how to deal with Retsuko in a positive way. And and I think I've said it before. In the next two seasons, you kind of have those moments where Ton sort of just gives her honest advice about her life. More because he's looking out for her. Because like we said before, even though this is a very flawed department, and there probably are better people that can get in to do these jobs, these are his people. He is responsible for them. It's so he does look out for her to a degree, as much as his position allows.
So you brought up. Go ahead.
No, I was kind of basically finished my point there.
You brought up NOI before, and she only has the one scene with Hadai when they're at the cafe, and it's a heartbreaking scene because to this day, I still feel like
NOI was done dirty.
She really was. Yeah, Haida.
Haida. Yeah.
Like Haida and NOI really did belong together. They were seemingly written as being meant for each other, and yet he can't get over his own stuff with Aggretsuko, and so he keeps letting her pass him by. And even here, she's still like, she's still like, maybe there's an opportunity here. Maybe he's seeing the error of his ways, and he realized we should be together. And he says something stupid at that meeting, where she's like, "Ugh."
Well, she tells him that I've left the company, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't know." I was like, "What? You didn't even bother to check if I was still employed?" That was kind of like the moment where she actually finally gets to snap at him, and I think that's what a lot of what I heard online for the reception of that story was like they're just upset that Inoue basically gets dropped right away, and like she doesn't even cuss him out for it. She never stands up for herself. She just kind of accepts, like, okay, like you're not into me. I accept that, and she just moves on, which is not a very natural reaction.
Well, I mean, Haida is so up his own ass about things. He's so obsessed with his projected beliefs of Aggretsuko's perfection that he seems to be out of touch with reality of anything else happening in the world. You realize over the course of 4 seasons, he's a very self-centered character. And NOI just finally like sees that, like the curtains are pulled back and she sees that self-centeredness. And she's like, I don't even know why I ever liked you. Like, if she has that moment of, oh my God, you're even worse than I thought you were. And I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, he's kind of one of those people. He looks like he's got everything together from the outside, but when you start to dig deeper, you realize he doesn't. And I wouldn't say in a nasty way. It's just like he still has his own set of growing up to do.
For sure. All right, I think we got it covered because I don't remember a whole lot else about this. We didn't get a whole lot with the Foxy business ladies, the Crane.
Yeah, Washimi and Gory. Yeah,
we didn't get a whole lot with them
their season for content. I mean, there are a few jokes about Washimi. Apparently, like the reason why the president is hospitalized is because she keeps kicking him in the head every time he has a stupid idea. But Gory's just there to kind of still be the lovesick, middle-aged woman looking for Mr. Right, and I hope she finds him.
Yep.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, they seem to have overcome their spat from the previous season, which is nice to see. But it's a growing cast of characters slowly, and I don't think every season you can really focus on everyone. Like Kabai got a little more attention this season. Retsuko, of course, the main character. There's that nice bit where Manaka shows up to kind of counsel Retsuko a bit, and it's kind of nice how they weave previous characters together. Tadano shows up to give a bit of advice too. I think there's one.
Well, that's what I want to talk about.
It ends one really little detail I liked was when Kabai did leave, Anai was just devastated.
Yeah.
It was a nice little callback to how she kind of mothered him and was the one who was able to sort of teach him how to be productive at work. And it was kind of a nice little sort of continuity callback.
For sure. So the whole season ends. I said Hadai has lost his job.
Haida.
Haida lost his job, and he's looking at
he quit. I think
quit.
The new CEO was
Mm-hmm.
he was outed, and the old
Right.
CEO came back, and then Haida decided to quit after everything that had happened.
Point being, he sees Tadeshi. What the hell's his name of this character? Tadano. Jesus.
Tadano, yeah.
Tadano. So he sees Tadano up on a big screen on a building, and it seemed like it was leading to something. I couldn't quite pick up what it was, but that's what I wanted to throw it to you for. It's what I was trying to get to. Is you see them looking at. There was a sort of a tacit realization that Hadai would be useful to.
Sorry,
Harry would be useful to Tadano, and I'm not even trying anymore.
Sure,
and it seems like they were pointing in that direction, but it's the very last moment of the very last episode. So I was curious to see what you thought about there and where you think they might be going for season 5.
Yeah, it would be interesting if Haida ends up working for Tadano. I don't know if Tadano would offer him a position, but it's certainly that's sort of the big changing of the status quo. Haida is no longer working in the accounting department. Retsuko still is, and the rest of the characters are. It's good that they have said that there is a season 5, so that's good. Like I really enjoyed this season. Like it was hard to stop watching. We just kind of basically binged through it in 2 days.
Oh, I got through it Friday morning while I was working on the computer and doing stuff. So that's the nice thing about my new setup is I have my monitor right there with the Roku stick, so I can watch. So I can actually like be productive now. Also means I don't pay quite as much attention to things as I used to. But that's okay.
But I say, this season was a bit less Retsuko learning how to adult. It was a bit more dealing with the sort of more social issues about the change in the work culture, the difference in generations, and
so I'll be curious to see what they explore with season 5. Are they going to go back to a very Retsuko focused thing? Is she going to have yet another distraction outside of the job place to keep her focus? Is it going to be something internal? I don't know what more there is to explore about Japanese office culture that they haven't talked about yet, or what kind of a character they can introduce to mix things up and create dramatic tension. Which, just as an aside, I've always, naturally when doing these podcasts with all of you guys, just been able to engage in a conversation. I don't necessarily have to do a lot of explaining about dramatic structure, plot structure, characterization. I just use those words. You guys know what I'm talking about. You use them back with me. Occasionally, I'll get asked a question like, "Can you clarify something?" But for the most part, we're all able to keep this at about a college level discussion of media and literature. I now have to explain all of that though to my son, because we'll be watching stuff and he'll I don't understand why this was necessary, and then I have to explain to him well, if you don't do that, you don't have a plot, Jonas. And I gotta now break all of this stuff down and explain to him what is characterization, what is dramatic tension, and so going back to why I even brought all of that up, is there what kind of character will they introduce to break up the status quo of the office and create a situation that Retsuko has to deal with, because she's got to deal with something or we have no show, Jonas. Don't you understand?
Yeah, they could go with the hostile takeover by another company, or some part like that. I'm sure there's lots of different things that can be done. Haida's gone. Who's going to replace him? That character could be an interesting thing.
And that's what I was saying. Maybe they'll have him with Tadano.
No, you got the name right.
Oh, woohoo! I'm gonna for Robert Winfrey's sake, I'm going to add an applause button to my list of sound effects. I'll use that on myself next time I get a name right. I want to see them. I want to see them paired up together. I want to see everyone talked about Iron Man and Hulk, doing science bro stuff. Yeah, I want to see them doing tech bro stuff. That's what I'd like to see in season 5.
Yeah, that would be good. We know that Haida likes punk guitar by the looks of things. Retsuko likes metal. There's a chance that the two of them could bond over that. I don't know. I don't even know what's Retsuko and Haida's relationship status right now. Are they actually going to give it a solid go? Have they all but given up on things? Will there be another character entering in that Retsuko might go with or Haida might go with?
I was saying maybe that's an area that they go into, is that they both end up in a band together.
Yeah.
but based on her YouTube channel. So yeah, they've got some threads out there that they can play along with. But yeah, I'm enjoying the show. It's an easy watch and it's a fun discussion with you. So this is one of the lesser painful one of these that I do. It's like, oof, we're doing this now. Okay, no,
it is
all right.
very deceptive how you have the show about cute and cuddly mascot animal characters without actually dealing with sort of the heavy realities of.
Well, that was the
just
Odd
being an
Taxi
adult.
discussion.
Yeah.
That was the discussion that Robert and I had with Odd Taxi, where it was like it's basically like a Quentin Tarantino pulpy noir with animals.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, one thing about the show that I want to quick touch on is the music, and
there's some really good themes, like different character themes. Like I love the Washimi Gori theme. I like kind of like the kooky crazy things are happening theme.
I just wish, when they go to the Aggretsuko metal stuff, it's kind of the same beat every single time. If they don't really change that up enough, and look, I know to some people that seems like a very limited musical genre. Like, what can you do with it? But as somebody who is steeped in that genre, a lot. You
have a whole podcast about metal, don't you, Mark?
I do on Wednesday nights. As a matter of fact, now that you bring it up, one of the things we do on that podcast is we play 3 tracks at a time from various metal albums, and the service that we use to do that is Amazon Music. And if you're interested in being able to play music for yourself, whether you're out running or you're doing chores around the house or on your drive somewhere, and you need a good service with over 70 million songs that you can listen to, why not try a 30-day free trial of the Amazon Music Unlimited service that we're happening to be giving away here? There's a link in the description of this podcast at getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. Again, that's getamazonmusic.com/W2M network to get your free 30-day trial of the Amazon Music Unlimited service. Give it a shot. If you like it, you keep it. You pay the monthly fee. It's just the same as Spotify or Apple Music, or you can cancel at any time. No fuss, no muss, no contracts. All right, David. That is our discussion of Aggretsuko. Let's see. What are you doing in the future for me? What are you doing for me, David?
Here, on the 21st, I have Book of Boba Fett, assuming that hasn't been rescheduled.
Nope, that's the same.
Okay, for now, fingers crossed.
I don't think it's going to get moved. I think we're good.
Yeah, and then I think next month so far, I have Disenchantment Season 4.
Yep, March 24th. That is correct.
Yeah, and then on the 28th of April, we're doing Star Trek Lower Decks Season 1.
Because I initially canceled it last year when I was going crazy with too many shows and having to take on all these new W2M responsibilities. But things have leveled out now, and you happen to have mentioned, like, don't you owe me a show? And I'm like, I do. I made a promise.
I don't think those were my exact words, but sure.
I believe you said a debt needs to be paid, and I said, you're right, David. A Lannister always pays his debts. So, no, you've been a cool guy, and this was something that you had asked to do, and I just put it off. So I made sure we got it back on the calendar. Yes, we're going to be doing both seasons of Lower Decks before season 3 starts. So the first one is April 28th, and the next one's going to be July 7th, because that's just the way that worked out. I have you on for Bubble and Bell.
Yes. So for those of you that like me talking about anime in Japan, you'll probably want to tune into that.
Yep. We're gonna, in theory, we're gonna have to talk the Keki guys on for that.
Yeah. Also, if Bell is still in theaters where you are and you haven't seen it yet, give it a look.
It should be on PVOD by the time we get around to doing this. That was the intention. We'll be doing an on trial for the first Downton Abbey May 16th, and then Picard season 2, then on trial for Top Gun, and then I'll have you on for Damn You Hollywood for Downton Abbey 2, The New Era, and then finally I'll have you on the Damn You Hollywood for Top Gun Maverick, and that's all your shows currently through May 31st, unless you end up jumping on something else.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, but so far I haven't seen anything there. And that on trial for Downton Abbey, that's the first movie?
Yes.
Or just the series?
Nope. Oh, God, no. The movie, man, the movie.
Okay, sure.
All right, so
that controversial.
We are continuing with our look into our celebration of Black History Month and Black cinema here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. And when I say Black cinema, I mean the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when I say these things, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but not completely, because I do think these are films and genres and characters that need some examination when looking at the vast, wonderful culture of Black cinema. having said all that, we're going to be re-airing our Long Road to Ruin for the Shaft trilogy from the 70s, which is Shaft, Shaft's Big Score, and then Shaft in Africa. And then Jason Teasley and I will be looking at the Samuel Jackson pair of Shaft movies from 2000 and 2019. On Tuesday, myself and Robert Winfrey will be reviewing Roland Emmerich's Moonfall for about 5 to 10 minutes and spend the rest of the hour and 50 minutes complaining about Roland Emmerich complaining about Marvel films. Wednesday, speaking of the Metal Hammer of Doom and Amazon Music, we'll be reviewing the new Korn album. I was listening to that today. Me and my son were jamming out to it on our way to go see Jackass Forever. On Thursday, speaking of cartoons, we'll have a re-airing of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice to mark the on sale for The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson and directed by Matt Reeves. And that's actually tracking for about for $150 million weekend. So, we'll see what happens there. Alexis Hano will be on in the afternoon to discuss the new set of Looney Tunes cartoons, plus the Valentine's Day special. And then in the evening, more Black Cinema with your friends and I, Jason Teasley. We'll be looking at Coffee, the film that launched Pam Grier, Superfly, of which many films were patterned after, and Blackula, because I owed Jason Teasley at least one horror movie. On Friday, we got nothing. Saturday, we got a re-airing of Body Count in our continued celebration of Black culture. Ice-T's thrash metal band Body Count, which debuted, I think, in 1992, infamously included the track Cop Killer on there. We're going to re-air our review of that. And then on the Super Bowl, we'll have a re-airing of Warcraft as we gear up for Uncharted. And after the Super Bowl ends, myself, Jason Teasley, and maybe Jesse Starcher will be looking at National Champions, American Underdog, and We Are Marshall. So that's it. That's what I got going on here in the Radulich Broadcasting Network. That's what David's got going on. In the meantime, David, anything else before we go?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us here in our review of Aggretsuko Season 4. He's David Wright. I'm Mark Radulich. Remember to subscribe to the feed, to the audio feed, for you to get the shows as soon as they are uploaded to the server. With that, thank you for watching. If you were watching us on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, be well, be safe, and behave.